are not available tonight. I'd ask you to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing for the invocation.
Please pray with me. God, Father, Creator, one who is known by many names, we give you thanksgiving for the freedom to meet here this evening. Although we come from different lifestyles, religious beliefs, and political parties, we ask that you would reunite us as one as we seek what is best for the citizens of Pinetop and Lakeside. Be with our mayor and council members as they attend to the agenda and give them wisdom and discernment in all of their decisions. We ask that you would be with our first responders, all medical personnel, school teachers, school bus drivers, and school administrators as they serve the citizens of our cities. Help us to listen well to each other and, when necessary, agree to disagree. We ask your blessings upon our leaders, all who are in this room, and our cities. It is with joy and hope that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Diane. We appreciate you coming. Item B is call to the public. This is a business meeting of the Town Council. The town values and welcomes public input. Please address the council as a whole and not individual council members. Do not address staff or members of the audience. Council action on items brought up in call to the public is limited by the open meeting law. Council may direct staff to study the matter and reschedule for further consideration at a later date. Items on the agenda are not heard in call to the public, and individuals are limited to 3 minutes. Karen Dennison would like to speak tonight. Come on up, introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Karen Dennison. As president of the organization, I am here on behalf of the Friends of the Library, Town of Pinetop, Lakeside. The Friends of the Library is a 501 nonprofit organization that has been reactivated as it went inactive in 2017. We have 3 goals for this year. Number 1, we will revitalize our organization by growing our membership and member participation. We now have 21 active members and we'll have our 3rd monthly general meeting tomorrow. Number 2, we will conduct our organization legally and with transparency. We have updated our legal status with the Arizona Corporation Commission and filed the current 2020 IRS forms. We elected our board in September, updated our mission statement, and our bylaws are in the formal review process. We opened a nonprofit organization bank account as well. Number 3, we will provide consistent support to the library and their programs. This first year, our major project is supporting the library and community literacy, and we will be working with Read Better, Read Better. I'm sure you will be hearing more about that later on in the future. We continue to maintain a bookstore within the library, and we will be involved in other events in line with our mission. As a matter of fact, we will be at your trunk or treat event where we will be giving kids age-appropriate books and these cool bookmarks. And yes, perhaps even a little candy. And I've prepared bookmarks for all of you. Thank you for your time this evening. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer them.
Thanks for being here, Karen, and I know the Friends of the Library in the past has done a tremendous amount of good work for our library, and we certainly appreciate you reviving that. Thank you. So, any comments for Karen? Thanks for coming tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Very nice. Okay, we'll move on then to item C, which is our consent agenda. All items listed are considered routine matters and will be enacted by one motion of the council. There will be no separate discussion unless a member of the town council requests that an item be removed for discussion. Council members may ask questions without removing the item, and items removed are considered in their normal sequence unless called out of sequence. We have 2 items on our consent agenda tonight. Any questions or concerns? Vice Mayor?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Item D is business before the council. Public comment at the beginning of each agenda item after the subject has been announced and explained by staff. Any citizen who wishes may speak one time for 5 minutes on each agenda item, either before or after council discussion. Questions from council members, however, may be directed to staff or a member of the public through the mayor at any time. We have 3 proclamations on our agenda tonight. I've asked some fellow council members to read those for me tonight. Item D1 is the Arbor Day 2021 proclamation. Councilor Watson.
Thank you, Mayor. Arbor Day 2021. Whereas trees are one of the primary quality of life factors that the town government can provide for its citizens, and whereas trees will continue to provide the community with colors, flowers, and beautiful landscapes that can be enjoyed by all citizens, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal, and whereas the town of Pinetop-Lakeside has been recognized as Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation for the 36th year and desires to continue its tree planting ways. And now, therefore, I, Paul Watson, on behalf of Stephanie Irwin, Mayor of the town of Pinetop-Lakeside, do hereby proclaim Arbor Day 2021 in the town of Pinetop-Lakeside and urge all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and to support our town's community forestry program. And further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the town of Pinetop-Lakeside, Arizona, done at the Town Hall of Pinetop-Lakeside the 7th day of October, 2021.
Thank you, Councilor Watson. How appropriate in this beautiful fall time of year to have Arbor Day proclamation. Item D2 is the Vietnam Veterans Day of Healing, October 30th of 2021 proclamation. Councilor Buse.
Thank you, Mayor. The Vietnam's Veterans Day of Healing, October 30th, 2021 proclamation. Whereas in 2008, Congress passed Public Law Section 110-181, Section 598, authorizing the Department of Defense to establish the United States of America Vietnam War 50th commemoration to assist a grateful nation in thanking and honoring our Vietnam veterans and their families. And whereas on Memorial Day 2012, at a ceremony held at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C., the President of the United States officially launched the national commemoration of the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. The program will run until Veterans Day 2025. And whereas in late October of 2012, the United States of America Vietnam War 50th commemoration established the Commemorative Partner Program, a hometown-centric, veteran-focused initiative designed for federal, state, and local entities and communities, veterans groups, civic groups, industries, businesses, museums, libraries, schools, educational institutions, associations, and many other organizations to assist the grateful nation in thanking and honoring Vietnam veterans and their families where they live. And whereas the town of Pinetop-Lakeside, with the assistance of the Pinetop-Lakeside Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 2364, which is a Vietnam War 50th commemoration partner, will honor our Vietnam veterans and family members by having the Wall That Heals brought to the Mountain Meadow Recreation Complex on October 28th through the 31st, 2021. And whereas bringing the wall that heals to our community allows the souls enshrined on the memorial to exist once more among family and friends in the peace and comfort of familiar surroundings. The traveling exhibit provides thousands of veterans who have been unable to cope with the prospect of facing the wall to find the strength and courage to do so within their own communities, thus allowing the healing process to begin. And whereas on October 30th, 2021 at 1 p.m., a ceremony to thank the Vietnam War era veterans and family members of deceased veterans will be conducted by the Pinetop-Lakeside Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 2364 at the Mountain Meadow Recreation Complex in Pinetop-Lakeside, Arizona. Now, therefore, I, Sterling Buse, on behalf of Stephanie Irwin, Mayor of the town of Pinetop-Lakeside, do hereby proclaim October 30th, 2021 to be the Vietnam Veterans Day of Healing in the town of Pinetop-Lakeside. In witness, I need to read that last part, or in witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the town of Pinetop-Lakeside, Arizona, done at the Town Hall of Pinetop-Lakeside this 7th day of October 2021. Signed, Stephanie Irwin, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilor Buse. I believe we have some of our veterans here. I've got a couple copies of this that I can present to you if you would like to come up. It's quite an honor for our town to work with these gentlemen and continue to work with them in the future. Thank you all for your service. We'll move on then to item D3, which is Cities and Towns Week 2021 proclamation. Vice Mayor Smith.
Proclamation Cities and Towns Week 2021, Mayor Stephanie Irwin. Whereas the citizens of the town of Pinetop-Lakeside rely on the town of Pinetop-Lakeside to experience a high quality of life in our community, and whereas cities and towns in Arizona work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to deliver vital municipal services such as fire, police, and emergency medical response to ensure safe communities. And whereas cities and towns in Arizona also provide services and programs that enhance the quality of life for residents, such as parks, utilities, street maintenance, sanitation, and recycling services, libraries, community centers, and recreational programs. And whereas it is important for the town of Pinetop-Lakeside to continue to provide the excellent delivery of services and programs that our citizens have come to expect in our community. And whereas it is one of the responsibilities of the town of Pinetop-Lakeside officials to ensure open and accessible government through frequent communication with citizens using various avenues and means. And whereas through participation and cooperation, citizens, community leaders, local businesses, and municipal staff can work together to ensure that services provided by the town of Pinetop-Lakeside can remain exceptional elements of the quality of life in our community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Pinetop-Lakeside joins with the League of Arizona Cities and Towns and fellow municipalities across the state of Arizona in declaring October 17th through the 23rd, 2021, Arizona Cities and Towns Week. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the seal of the town of Pinetop-Lakeside, Arizona, done at the Town Hall of Pinetop-Lakeside this 7th day of October 2021, signed Stephanie Irwin, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Appreciate all three of your help this evening. Moving on then to item D4 is announcement and award presentation of the 2021 Fall Festival Parade winners. Malena.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and members of the public. Again, this year I had the extreme pleasure of being able to work with the Fall Festival Parade and planning that. And of course, I couldn't do it without our team at Public Works and the Community Services Department and Town Hall. So thank you for everybody and everybody that participated. And I'm going to start with our Best Equestrian Float, which every year since, gosh, I can remember, the Sheriff's Posse has always participated in our parade and had a great showing. So this year's award for Best Equestrian Float goes to the Sheriff's Posse. Next, we are going to do the Best School Award. Again, this participant has participated in numerous parades over the years and never fails. They always show up and have a strong showing and always play some fantastic music for us. And that's the Sholo Cougar High School Marching Band. Next is our Best Commercial, and I have to say that we have some amazing restaurants in our town, but I'm a little bit partial to this one in particular, and I think we tend to go there quite often for lunch, so at least myself and our family, we really enjoy it, and it's owned and operated by a fantastic family, and that's Mr. Zeke's. So congratulations to Mr. Zeke's. So one more for awards, and I'll ask Mayor Irwin to come down and maybe help me present this one too. This is actually for the Mayor's Choice. So we used to do the best overall years ago, and we've kind of changed that to the Mayor's Choice. And this year again, another organization, company that participates almost every year, and that's the Dance Academy of the White Mountains and Becky. And the last thing I have is not so much an award, but definitely a certificate of appreciation. I believe since the parade started, which was 37 years ago, and we just had our 36th annual since COVID. We had to cancel, unfortunately. But so the 36th annual Fall Festival Parade has always been led by our local VFW post. Always rely on them, and I'm pretty sure John Beeler always asks me every year, you know you got us, right? And of course, we always remember our veterans, and so we have just a small certificate of appreciation, and just want to tell you guys thank you very much for always being there. Thank you for your service and for the sacrifices for our country. So whoever wants to come up and accept this. That's all I have. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Milena, for a great parade, and thanks to all the participants. I think Living the Dream was a great theme for all of us. Anyway, we look forward to next year. Item D5 is consider the reappointment of Tim Williams to the Planning and Zoning Commission with a term ending July of 2024. Jeremiah?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. See if I can reduce some of the feedback on this.
A little bit.
Jeremiah, before you do, let's call Tim and have him on the phone also.
Okay, yeah, we've got Commissioner Williams that available by phone since he couldn't be here tonight. Tim, this is Stephanie Irwin from the council meeting. Are you available to chat with us?
Yes.
Okay, Jeremiah is going to introduce the subject, and then you're available for questions. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Item D5 is a commissioner appointment of Tim Williams. Tim Williams, to my understanding, has served the commission 2 times, a total of 14 years, and the last time is for 9 years. And he has asked for the council to reconsider his appointment to the Planning and Zoning Commission for another 3 years.
Okay, thank you. Councilors, are there any questions for Tim tonight? Councilor Buse?
Yes, Mr. Williams, this is Sterling Buse, council member. Have you received some retraining, I guess, from the staff about proper responses on voting?
I wouldn't call it training. I call it information.
So one of the things that I've suggested in this moving forward with the commission in general, and specifically when we get a new member, is to offer the opportunity for training for not only Robert's Rules of Order, but primarily the open meeting law, and when it's appropriate to abstain or notify that you're going to abstain.
Correct.
Okay, so does that answer your question?
Okay, so are you clear on when it's appropriate to abstain and the proper procedures to follow to do that?
I am.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it would be, as far as the council as well, not just commission, but the council as well, to have this training for them as well, that newcomers, that way everybody's on the same board.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yes. Okay.
So one of the other things that I've suggested is that when we get a new commissioner, to have them sign like an affidavit certifying that they've read the open meeting law and submitting that with a packet to them to read the town code. I think it's a great idea moving forward.
Okay, that is a good idea. And I know as council members, we do have newly elected officials training available through the league. I don't know if there's any training for commissioners. I think we've tried to put that into our budget in the past years. I don't know if any of them have taken advantage of that or not. But Tim, thank you for putting your name in the hat again. We appreciate your service. So, council? Yes.
I do have a further question, and let me just ask it now. So in the last meeting, council meeting that we had, and I don't know if you were here, so this may be new to you. Councilman Watson asked if the public notice was given regarding when, I believe it was 4 terms ended recently of commissioners. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. The answer given to him was that yes, it had. The actual notice, though, indicated that there was 1 vacancy on the Planning and Zoning Commission for a 2-year term. And I guess what I'm questioning, it doesn't seem to me like this is being put out properly, I guess I'll say. To my understanding of the way things work, so there were 4 commissioners whose terms were ending.
3.
Is that?
Yeah, there was 3.
I thought there were 4.
There's 3 and 1 open.
They're staggered. There's 2 for 3-year terms, 2 for 3-year terms, and 3 for 3-year terms.
Okay. The 4th one then, did he resign while he still had time left
Yes.
on a term? Is that it? Okay.
Correct.
So to my understanding of the way things should have been done is a public notice should have been put out that there was 1 opening due to somebody resigning, and there were 3 terms coming to an end on the Planning and Zoning Commission. Is that my understanding? Am I correct in my understanding there?
Yes, and I've talked with the town clerk, and we've reviewed it because it did only indicate 1 vacancy on there, but it should have indicated multiple seats were open. So it indicated there were vacancy, and then, but in the future, it will be more spelled out. more clearly.
Okay, and I'm not suggesting that,
In her mind, it was, we had one vacant position, and that's what they posted, so.
yeah, all right.
It's probably due to the fact that 3 of the commissioners had submitted their interest in remaining on the commission.
Yeah, and I understand that, but regardless, it should still be put out to the public that there are
Yes.
3 terms ending, and then it's up to the commission to decide whether they keep those members who have put in letters that they'd like to stay on, or select new ones who have put letters in with an interest. I mean, that,
Yes.
correct in my assumption
Yeah.
there. I mean,
Yes.
that is totally up to the commission, and I'm fine with that. I guess I just want to make sure that from here on out, that that's done properly and the public notices are given properly
Yes.
when that occurs. So,
Thanks for pointing that out. That would be a better clarification. Councilor Krigbaum.
I have a suggestion. This is back on the things that you would do with a new person coming in. I would think it would be a good idea to make sure, and I think this is important for all of us, that the general plan is reviewed.
Right, so that would be.
So in addition to the
in
open
the
meeting
packet.
law, those are things that we need to be on top of.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? I would entertain a motion then.
Okay.
Okay. Vice Mayor, thank you.
I move to approve the reappointment of Tim Williams to serve for a term of 3 years to the Planning and Zoning Commission for the town of Pinetop-Lakeside.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to reappoint Tim Williams to serve as a Planning and Zoning Commissioner. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Tim, for your willingness to serve.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being available tonight as well.
Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good evening. Okay. Don't go away. Item D6 is information and public hearing, and consider accepting ordinance number 21-442 regarding zoning application for Z-083, requesting a zoning map amendment from rural residential R-Low to light commercial zoning C1 for the White Mountain Wildlife and Nature Center located at 425 South Woodland Road, Lakeside, Arizona 85929. And before Jeremiah introduces this, I would just like everybody to know that Diana Butler, the chairman of the Nature Center, called me today, and she's under the weather and couldn't come speak to this issue. I assured her that Jeremiah would be available to answer all our questions. So go ahead.
Okay, Councilor Snitzer initially approached me probably within the first week of when I started here, and he had some ideas about things he wanted to do on his property. So he was asking me about foundations and different things, basically buildings type stuff. And so we talked a little bit about his plans and what he saw moving forward with the Nature Center. And as we delved further into what he was talking about doing, it became clear that a rezoning action would be necessary if he was going to do it on the farthest north parcel that the Nature Center owns. And so that was kind of how this started. The White Mountain Nature Center has been a community asset since its inception in 2004 and construction in 2012. The Nature Center is a valuable partner and serves as an educational outreach facility for youth and nature enthusiasts alike. Their vision is to connect people through nature education, wildlife rehabilitation, and open space preservation in the White Mountains of Arizona. Their vision statement is to connect people through nature education, wildlife rehabilitation, and open space preservation. This request would not create spot zoning. I looked at it for 3 things, basically. Is it spot zoning? Does it fall in line with the general plan? Is it going to vary the characteristics of the neighborhood? And so in my assessment, it falls in line. Not only does it fall in line with the general plan and the land use element of that plan, it fits in with the existing uses in the vicinity to the south. There's light commercial and heavy commercial. And so it doesn't change the characteristics of the neighborhood. It falls in line with the general plan. And so those are some of the things that I'd look at, basically. It's not spot zoning because there's other commercial around. So on September 23rd, the Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to recommend the approval of Z83 to the Town Council.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeremiah. Any questions for Jeremiah? Councilor Buse.
Was there anyone who objected to it?
There was one. Mailed to everybody within 300 feet, and there was one response. They were concerned about increased traffic. They were concerned about increased pollution and increased crime. So I think that of those three, the one with potentially the most merit is the traffic concern. They do make a statement in their application that they don't feel, the Nature Center doesn't feel at least, that this will increase traffic anymore. They've held events and they were able to park everybody on their own property and get everybody in and out efficiently. So far it hasn't been an issue. And I went to a meeting that they had the other day, and they talked about forward-thinking initiatives of the possibility of looking across the street for more parking, but I don't know that that will be necessary now. It's really interesting what they're thinking about doing out there. It's a wildlife sanctuary and kind of like a training facility. So they'll put on shows for people to come watch and stuff, and so that was part of the reason behind the request, because if they were charging for a show, that's kind of a commercial endeavor, so it would require the zoning change.
Just as a follow-up to that, the one person who sent in a letter or email, I noticed, asked for a copy of the application and any information available. Was that provided to that individual?
So I emailed them a copy per their request, and I invited them to the zoning meeting, and I did not hear from them.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to hope to change their mind, but didn't hear from them.
Okay. Anything else?
Just,
Councilor Watson?
just to clarify, this is the 5 acres on the northernmost part of the property?
Correct. So where the Nature Center sits currently is 425 Woodland Road. It's the parcel immediately adjacent to the north of that has been used in the past for parking.
Right, okay.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so are there any members of the public that would like to address us on this issue? Okay, seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Is there any further council discussion? And I would entertain a motion. Councilor Buse.
I move that, let's see, I'll make sure I get this right. Consider accepting ordinance, that we accept ordinance number 21-442 regarding zoning application Z083, requesting a zoning map amendment from rural residential R-low to light commercial zoning C1 for the White Mountain Wildlife and Nature Center located at 425 South Woodland Road, Lakeside, Arizona.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to accept ordinance number 21-442. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Jeremiah. We will then move on to item D7, which again is a public hearing regarding the proposed amendments to Title 15, Chapter 15.08, Drainage Regulations, Resolution number 21-1591, declaring as public record a certain document filed with the town clerk and entitled Town Code Amendments to Title 15, Chapter 15.08, Drainage Regulations, and ordinance number 21-443, adopting the Town Code Amendments to Title 15, Chapter 15.08, Drainage Regulations. Jeremiah.
So, Mayor and Council, as you're aware, I have a background in flood control, and I'm a licensed civil engineer. And one of the things that I would like to see, and kind of the reason that I put this together, was to help the town in the future from potential losses for the residents, primarily when they're building a home and they may be unaware. If they're not in a FEMA designated special flood hazard area, they're not required to buy or purchase flood insurance, and so they may not be aware that just because you're not in a special flood hazard area, that you could still be a victim of flooding. Now we can get in another conversation about that all in itself. You can get a preferred risk policy, a PRP, if you're not in a special flood hazard area, and that would be at a reduced risk, but a lot of people are unaware of that. Anyway, so that's kind of a little bit behind this. I've seen this in action before. It works, it's effective. There was one case particularly that sticks out in my mind, that there was, they were asked to do this. They were against it, they didn't like it, they thought it was a terrible idea. And then there was a microburst after they built their house, and it flooded everywhere around it, but their house was safe because it was elevated. So I've seen this in action. It works, it's effective, and that's why I brought it to you guys' consideration tonight.
Okay, can you explain the diagrams a little bit and how exactly it would work,
Certainly,
if you don't mind?
Diagrams together for you guys and for the zoning commission, because when I first started talking about this, there was a little bit of confusion. And so if you look at the diagrams, I think it's pretty clear if the road, this is based off of me making a determination if the road's above the home site or below the home site. And if the road is above the home site, then that's an obvious red flag in my mind that this home should be elevated at a minimum of 18 inches. And so normally this is just a 15-minute site visit. I go out to the site, I look at the site. I don't bring any survey gear, although that'd be nice in some cases maybe. But usually it's never been necessary. It's usually a pretty easy call. If it's above, then yeah, elevate it. Or excuse me, if the road's above the home site, elevate it. If the road is below the home site, then you don't have to elevate it. There's actually already a requirement for elevation within our adopted building code. So this isn't too much further than that. It's a requirement of 12 inches plus 2% from the gutter of the street. And so, yeah, this just codifies that. I don't know if that was being enforced. If you drive through some of the neighborhoods, I think that Matt could attest that it's most likely probably wasn't. So I think that moving forward, that this is a good option for us. It's not going to really increase any costs. It's going to take a little bit of my time. But I think it's value added for permit applicants and for homeowners and residents of the town of Pinetop-Lakeside.
So this is something that when somebody came in for just like their foundation plant inspection, you would catch that ahead of time? At what point in the process would you actually tell them what they need to do?
Right, so this would actually, as soon as they apply, I would take their site plan out to the site and make that determination before I issued them a permit, whether they were required to build elevated 18 inches or only 12.
Okay. Councilor Watson?
So, yeah, thank you. A couple questions. And I know, for example, on Woodland Road, right? Woodland Road, way back in the day when I was around, we changed the elevations because we had some real dips and high points. When we changed the elevations, some of those houses sit 10 feet below the grade of the road or more. This requirement wouldn't be that they have to build that whole lot up above the grade of the road, would it?
Not the whole lot. It would just be for the home site.
So the home would have to be built on that's the one home I'm thinking of. I know it drops probably 12 feet from the road, and for that home to have to build up that footprint would be astronomical in cost.
Right, so it's the 12, let me be clear. I can see where you're going with that, but the 18 inches requirement is above the highest adjacent grade of the home site. It's not 18 inches above the center line, if that makes sense.
I think
Councilor Buse, go ahead.
if I could, my understanding is, yes, so it doesn't have to be above the road grade. If it's below the road grade, though, or the middle of the road, right?
Correct.
Then it has to be 18 inches above the grade immediately around the house.
Correct.
Not doesn't have anything to do with the road that way. I mean, as far as being above the road.
Right, so the road is just to make the determination whether it needs to be elevated or not. It doesn't have to be elevated above the height of the road.
I got you. So in theory, if the whole lot sits below, the footprint of the stem wall or the house itself needs to be raised 18 inches above the rest of the lot, right?
Above the adjacent site, yeah. So wherever the foundation would fall, the highest point of that, we would elevate 18 inches above that.
So where I'm going, my biggest concern would be if for example, if indeed a particular lot is adjacent to the next lot. I mean, this happens in our subdivision. We have lots that sit quite a bit higher than the lot next door. I understand that lot that's on the lower slope needs to build up for drainage and whatever, right? But that lot shouldn't have to build up higher than the lot next door. If you're on a graded slope that's like this, you got a house here and a house here, there's no way you would want to build this one up higher than the lot next door. So I'm just trying to be clear that it's only, you know, if his whole lot is a half acre and he's taken a third of that for the footprint of the house, he only has to build up the 18 inches on his footprint, not
Correct.
trying to match any house next door or anything else. Okay, I think I'm clear.
Does that answer your question? Vice Mayor, go ahead.
Well, so yeah, my question is, if we're really trying to protect everybody from flooding, why even have the 12-inch? Why not just make it 18?
Well,
We see Woodland Hills has been here for 20 years, and it's 18 inches regardless of where the crown of the road is. And it helps our neighborhood. We don't have a lot of flooding. I mean, and it's prone to a lot of water coming through the subdivision. And I don't know that the crown of the road makes a hill of beans difference, you know, for a flood or for the flood waters, because a lot of these places are built on hills or on hillsides, and the road, yeah, they might be, you know, above the crown of the road, but they're not above the water coming down to them. So I would like to see 18 inches as a standard.
I'm not opposed to it. I think that some people may be, though. The 12-inch is a kind of a compromise where, because basically, from a flood control perspective, when you see homes that are below the road, you know there's going to be a problem when it rains, because the water's going to run off the road into those homes. And if you're at the same grade, then, or if your home is above that, then the water's going to flow. It's going to flow out in the street more than likely, and use that as a channel. Yeah, I'm not opposed to that idea. I think that some people may be, though, just because of the perceived added cost. I mean, in any event, we can only prepare for so many storm events. We can prepare for like a 20-year event, but at what cost do we raise that to 100-year protection, for example, for not just on a micro analysis of a home site, but like for a business? There's a cost analysis that we should be considerate of, like a BCR, where a benefit to cost, where that kind of shows that at some point it's not really cost effective to elevate the home, every home. So that's kind of my logic behind just the 12 inches for, I'm not opposed to, I love your idea of 18 inches. I think it'd be great if everyone would be willing to do that.
Well, that's our standard in our subdivision, so it isn't a problem that I've seen for 152 homes.
Yeah.
It's 18 inches, and everybody knows that, and you know, when they come to you, their plans show 18 inches, regardless of where the crown of the road is.
Your neighborhood as a kind of analysis. How many instances of flooding have you had in your neighborhood due to in any storm? Like, for instance, any event that we've had this year or in recent history?
Well, I'm not saying you can prevent everything.
Right. I'm just saying, I'm using your argument for a reason to require this.
He's agreeing with you. I understand the cost benefit analysis that you have to make. I guess the question I would ask, do we know of any of our neighboring communities if this is a part of their code? Do we?
I do know. So I saw this. I didn't just dream it up. I saw it in effect at the town of Eager, and it works. So there's a local application.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm clear.
And so I guess what you were trying to get to the point is that we can only plan for so much. You can't engineer for a 1,000-year flood because it would be cost prohibitive.
Right.
So by doing this, we are offering a certain degree of protection to our citizens and their homes.
Right.
And to me, an extra 6 inches, what's that, another block? It's really not a huge cost when you look at the whole grand scheme of everything. So I think this is a great idea. Councilor Buse?
I don't think there's any need to do away with the 12-inch. The 12-inch is when the lot itself is higher than the road. So you're already starting from a good position and going 12 inches. If in fact Woodland Hills requires 18 inches, there's many of those homes that are below the road grade, even with the 18 inches. And that wouldn't apply to these because they're already above the road grade, and they just have to be 12 inches then above the grade around the home. So they're going to be above the road, is what I'm saying. I don't see a need to go 18 inches on everything.
The ones that are next to Rim Road are 10 feet below, the road. So, yeah, I'm just thinking that if we're trying to protect everybody, 18 inches would be a good standard. But I'm okay if, with the cost analysis that you're doing for the 12-inch.
Just for clarification.
Our subdivision requires 18.
Okay, and you can do that in your HOA differently than the town, as long as it meets our town minimum standards. Councilor Buse?
And just for clarification, this is new construction only.
Right, this is not retroactive.
And what happens if I want to put an addition on my home?
That is an interesting question because I had that happen, and it's kind of difficult to tell somebody you got to elevate this portion of your home over if it's 18 inches compared to what you had before. You're going to have a differential, and you're going to have a step up. So that's the one instance where I've actually had problem in my mind justifying this.
I think you would. I think you would have to allow them to do what the standard level was.
So,
And do we need to put that into this somehow, I guess is my question.
I think that we could, yeah.
So, and how would we word that? That would be a challenge.
I think there's a way that you could put that if there is an existing home that's being added onto, the existing grade of the home would meet the standards. There's a way to do that.
Yeah. We could add it to the language of to the town code and the drainage regulations.
Or is that something that the director could have discretion to allow for that exception? Or would it be better to have?
That would be appropriate. Yeah, because this whole, if you read what it says, it basically gives me the discretion to make that determination on site. So I'd go out site by site, case by case, site by site basis, and make that determination.
So then it's possible we really don't need to specify that.
Right.
So, sure.
No, sorry.
Go ahead.
Keep that on. In 15.08020, the last line says, or when the town engineer shall determine that the regulation is not necessary or does not apply.
So we've basically got it in there.
Yeah.
Does
And
that,
as long as we have Jeremiah here, but what happens when a new person comes in and wants to? I think it'd be good to put in there somehow that this applies to a new residence and not to new single family residence, new construction, and would not apply to an addition to an existing structure. I think there would be good to have something in there.
I agree.
it wouldn't hurt. That's true. Okay. Is that something we can just add then through a motion, I would think, when we're to that point? I believe we can. Any other questions or comments for Jeremiah on this at this point? This is a public hearing. Is there anybody from the public that would like to address us on this tonight? Come on up here. introduce yourself and tell us your thoughts.
James Brimhall, I just came here to listen, but hearing this change, I recommend that if you want to be safe, to go ahead and put in the whole 18 inches, but I would hopefully keep it at the 12 inches as a standard, because I know it's only another block, and not the cost, but a whole other step. And I think that one more step individuals may not want. So I think of just the standard, keeping it at the 12, recommend if you want the 18 to be safe, but not to put the 18 as like the standard I recommend. Thank you.
Thank you, James. We appreciate your input. Is there any other member of the public that would like to address us? Thank you. That will conclude the public hearing. Council, what are your wishes? I would just like to say that I think that is a good point, because there are older people that may not want a bunch of steps up into their home. I mean, you could accommodate a ramp on that, but I know there are a lot of people that don't particularly want quite many steps. Anyway, so do we have a motion with that in there? Councillor Watson.
I'll attempt to make the motion.
Thank you.
The motion would be approval of implementing foundation requirements for residential structures through Title 15 drainage regulations by amending Chapter 15.08.020 and adding 15.08.100 minimum elevation of lowest finished floor for residential construction, with an amendment to that chapter that would eliminate the requirement for an existing residential structure that is doing an addition. And that structure would be able to do the addition at the same elevation as the existing floor plan.
I'd second that.
Thank you. Well said. I appreciate that. Is there any further discussion? It's been moved and seconded that we adopt this resolution number 21-1591 and ordinance number 21-443. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Jeremiah, and thank you, everybody, for that good discussion. We'll move on then to item D8, is consider resolution number 21-1592 and approve the purchase of a 2022 Ford F-250 Super Cab XL. Matt.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I bring to you a new Ford truck for the Parks Manager, Frank Naranjo. We're using Section V of our purchasing policy, which allows us to use state contracts. I've reached out to several different companies trying to get this truck that we had already budgeted for this fiscal year. However, to order a truck at this point, we're 2023. They're no longer building anything for 2022. However, this truck came along, and Peoria Ford is on the state contract, and they called me and let me know that this one was available. It's a little bit more than what we had planned on spending. However, it's got the little bit bigger cab on it versus what we normally get is a single cab, and this one's the crew cab, or I can't remember, super cab or something like that, but it's just a little bit bigger. Anyways, we're using the ADS PO 171661117 state contract. This was sent to over 200 vendors for solicitation. So I believe that it is in the best interest to move forward with the state contract and purchase this directly from Peoria Ford.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions or comments for Matt? And so the overage that's not in our budget, we will take out of some other parks monies.
Yeah, we're going to have to. And I don't think that it's just necessarily the extent of the cab. The prices have also increased, so we got kind of double whammied there on that this year. So I apologize for that.
Okay.
What do you do?
Questions or comments for Matt?
Current market.
Yeah, if we wait for 2023 trucks, it'll probably be another 10% on top of that.
Yeah, and how do we do that? How do I, put money aside for 2023 delivery? So
Yeah,
I don't
crazy.
know how I would even get away with, or how we would go down that path. So
Agreed. Okay, do I have a motion then? I'd entertain a motion. Vice Mayor?
I move to adopt resolution number 21-1592, approving the purchase of a Ford F-250 Super Cab XL 4x4 from Peoria Ford, financing through Ford Credit Municipal Finance in an amount not to exceed $55,833.65, and authorize the town manager to execute all documents necessary to complete this transaction.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 21-1592. All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Council.
Moving then on to item D9 is consider resolution number 21-1593 and the agreement for professional services for Barton Architecture PLLC for the police department. Matt.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So over the last year, we've been working with Woodson Engineering and Barton Architectural on the PD building, and you guys have gotten to see some of the drawings that we've come up with and worked on with them. It's been a great relationship, and I've worked with them in the past, and they've got a good reputation. They're actually out of Winslow. However, we got to this point in the contract, and it became relevant to me that we were going to keep spending significant amount of money with them to finish this project. And I decided that I thought that it would be in our best interest to bring it to you and separate this out of our Woodson Engineering contract, which I did an RFQ for several years ago. And that's because we use that engineering firm over I think that contract's 5 years. So the cost eventually gets over $250,000. And the state requires in Chapter 30, Title 34 of the state statutes is that anything over $250,000 has to be an RFQ process. However, in this case, we're looking at $165,000 for the design and construction element. At first, I was a little worried about the cost, but the more I thought about it and the more I dived into it, I think that this is a fair number for what we're asking. We're asking a contractor, we're asking the architect to build a two-phase project and to oversee the two-phase project, which means the structural engineer will have to come out for both phases. The electrical engineer will have to come out for both phases. And then when I looked further into it, architectural services usually range around 6%, and for this overall project, we're hitting around 3 and 4%. So I think that we're getting a really good deal here with Barton Architect. They're a good quality firm, and I like working with them, and I think that everybody that's worked with them so far has had a good relationship with them. So that's why I brought this back to you, so we could separate that out and not be under the engineering.
So if there's a need for them to come out here more frequently, do you think they will have an add-on cost to that?
Yes, and that's in that contract. It's a per hourly cost. I don't think so. I pick up a lot of the slack for whenever there's an issue. I typically can handle it and get them the information they need. So I'm pretty good at that. So I'm hoping that I'll keep those costs down. But this actually, they come out quite...
yeah, several times.
Yeah, it's 16 times for the architect, 8 per phase, 4 for the structural engineer, so 2 each phase, which he's going to come out, he came out already, and then he'll come out again once everything's complete to sign off on the structural. We're doing that because we're remodeling that, the existing, and I want to make sure that we're brought all the way back up to the new structural standards. So that's part of the reason we're taking the roof off and going to higher grade metal and things like that. So those are the kind of things that he's going to be looking for. So that's kind of what the breakdown is. And actually, when you start to look at it, you know, the $165,000 at first looks a little bit broad to you, but then when you start to break it down, it actually doesn't seem that bad at all. And then when you really look at the numbers, you come to find out that they're under what the industry is right now. So I think it's fair.
Okay, any questions or comments for Matt? Councilor Buse.
And just so I'm clear, this does include both phases, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Anything else? Councilor Watson.
So Matt, if this was to continue under the engineer, do they have a fee that they tack onto that as opposed to bringing it out as a separate contract with the architect?
No, they don't have a fee at all. I just didn't like that I was going to be spending $165,000 without your approval. Is really what this came down to. That's the only reason I'm standing in front of you tonight. Because we're getting hit for $10,000, you know, $5,000, and I just didn't like that the amount was getting stretched out so far, and so I felt like it would be good to put it in front of you guys and you guys make that decision. So
I agree.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Motion?
I'll do a motion.
Councilor Buse.
I move to adopt and approve resolution number 21-1593, accepting the agreement for professional services contract with Barton Architecture PLLC for the police department, and authorize the town manager to execute any and all documents in connection with this agreement.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 21-1593. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Matt.
Thank
We
you,
look
Mayor and
forward to
Council.
continued progress on this project.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there being no further business tonight, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.